Hey guys, welcome to the YouTube video. Today it's going to be a kind of a review slash trash talk slash yada yada. A good friend of mine by the name of Cutlery Lover did a video recently showing off a 119 copy, and this is the exact same knife. And this video I'm going to talk about this knife because I'm really surprised China's getting away with making this, because just from a glance it does look like an exact replica of the Buck 119, which is one of Buck's well-known models. I mean, this really does shock me that this knife is being made, and there is a few differences when comparing it to the actual 119. And to show you all the differences, I actually got my brand new Buck 119 that I pulled out of my collection. So I'm going to unbox this. Even the way they package it looks just like the way you would get it in the Buck factory, because there's two ways you can get this kind of knife from the factory. There is this kind of packaging, and then there's the standard Buck box that everyone knows about. I mean, even the packaging looks very, very similar. And the sheath, same thing. So today I'm going to open this up and then compare it. This is some thick plastic. I'll say this is some thick plastic. There we go. And just get it out of there. I'll say this is some tough plastic. There we go. Now I can just get it out. There's the knife. Plastic did graze me, but it didn't cut me. And let's get the sheath out. There we go. All right, then take the little thing off. Now, like I said, at first glance, this does look like an exact replica of the 119. I mean, this is just such an iconic design. I'm kind of not surprised China copied it, because they copy a lot of stuff from the US. And the main reason I'm also doing this video is to show people the differences, so people don't accidentally mistake this for the real 119. Because if you don't know your knives that well, you're going to see this knife at Harbor Freight and think it's a real Buck knife when it is not. And even the sheath is identical. Oh, well, I just noticed this too. They also put a plastic insert in the sheath, just like Buck does. So that's another detail they copied from Buck. The sheath, on the other hand, is not the same kind of quality as Buck. It's normally very thick, as you can see on the actual sheath. And they did try to copy it, even down to this part right here. As you can see, the leather on this one's a lot thicker than this one. But it is real leather, but whether or not it's real, actual, the same kind of leather that Buck uses, I don't think so. And this one's got more of a curved point to it right here when you compare it to the other Buck sheath. So, but then of course that's mainly the sheath. Now let's get the knives out. Again, this is a brand new 119. And, of course, the main giveaway I noticed by watching my buddy Cutlery Lover's video is the main thing I noticed is the black spacers right here. On the knockoff one, there's no black spacers. On the actual ones, there's those spacers. That's one thing Buck is known for. But other than that, obviously, there's no date codes. That alone should be a red flag. And the blood grooves do look almost the exact same. And the blade grinds themselves are a little different, actually. When you compare it to the real 119, as you can see, the groove right here is a lot bigger, and the edge extends outward a little bit. On a real 119, it doesn't really do that. So the blade stock on this is a little bit thicker, or I mean wider. And then when you compare the two false edges on the back of the blades, you can see those look very different. On the fake one, it's a lot bigger and more protruding. On the real 119, it's actually not that big. It's very smooth to the back of the blade. And then, of course, the blade thickness, yeah, is roughly right about the same. And then, of course, the handles themselves are almost shaped the exact same. And then the main thing I would definitely am going to find out is if this knife is a full stick tang. What that means is on the original 119s, the tang goes all the way through into the pommel where they stamp it and it holds it in place. On this one, I honestly have no clue if this is the full tang where it goes all the way to the pommel right here, or is it a small little rat tail where it just sticks right here. I do plan on using this, and I am going to torture test this a little bit just to see the quality, because I've put the one I carry with me through a lot, so it is very sharp, but I will admit it does not feel the same kind of sharpness as the buck knives do when they come from the factory. So here's the real 119. Let me adjust the camera so y'all can see this easier. Fold the piece of paper. Here's the real 119. Well, that was a terrible example. My apologies. See, that's the real 119. Even down to the tip. Now let's see how the copy does. Okay, I gave it some press. It is pretty sharp. Whether or not it'll stay that way, who knows? And for the price, I think I agree with my buddy Cutlery Lover. The price needs to be knocked down a little bit, and because it's definitely not the same kind of quality that you get from the actual buck knives. And it does feel a little heavier than the 119s. And even if you wanted to go for something a little cheaper, you can still, for the price of this was $25 at Harbor Freight. For the price of this, you can go to Walmart and actually pick yourself up a Buck Light for only $20. And for a little extra, you can get yourself a 110. Or if you really want to go extra, you can get yourself one of these. So I would definitely recommend, don't buy this, get yourself something else. I mean, the only reason I would buy something like this is to take the blade out and actually put my own style blade in this handle, so I don't actually have to destroy a good buck knife. And it just really shocks me that they even copied the plastic inlay that most buck sheaths come with. Let me take it out of this one. As you can see, in the real buck sheath, it comes with a plastic inlay to help hold the blade in place. And this Chinese copy, same thing. So, like I said, the main difference is obviously there's no tang stamp, which that alone should tell you something. And there's no spacers between the pommel and the guard. And the handle on the real 119 has 2 finger grooves right here. The copy doesn't. It has 1 groove right here. So that's another difference. And of course, this is very highly polished, which is what Buck is also good at. This one is not. So those are all the details between these two. Like I said, I would rather you just go and spend a little bit more money, get something better. Don't get this Chinese junk. And I'm going to keep this around so I can show people the differences. The sheath, once again, feels very slim, very cheap. I've dealt with a lot of leather, so that's how I know. And let's see how it looks when it sits in the sheath. Yeah, that's very, very loose. On a real buck knife, when you insert it in the sheath, there's almost no loosage. And on top of that, when you first get these leather sheaths, any person who knows buck knives and has bought them brand new will know this. When you first get this buck sheath, it is normally very stiff. Right here on the loop right here, if you buy a brand new sheath, the flap right here is normally very, very stiff. You have to actually let it sit just like this for a couple of days, and it starts to keep its groove. This one didn't even have to do that. This leather feels very cheap. It feels more like pleather than actual leather. And on top of that, this is very loose. I could just do that. On a real buck knife, it's just one stamp right here and one underneath the belt loop. It is not multiple like that. You can't just move it like this. On real leather, you can't do that. So those are the main differences. I hope you've learned something. Like I said, please don't waste your money on something like this. The only reason I bought it is to do this video, and I will be keeping this around to show people the differences. But like I said, if you want to spend the money, get yourself a good one. Don't get yourself a knockoff. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. And as always, stay sharp.